You know, there's a critical and honestly often overlooked aspect of retirement we need to talk about. It's about protecting the wealth you've spent a lifetime building. For a lot of us, there's this quiet, almost dangerous comfort that can settle into the relationship we have with a long-term financial advisor. It's this feeling that you can finally relax, that you've checked that box. But what if that very comfort is actually a warning sign? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the neuroscience behind this blind trust, and more importantly, give you a clear, powerful framework to reclaim and protect your financial sovereignty. Let's start by really understanding the nature of this trap.
So here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll define the blind trust trap and look at the neurological reasons it's so incredibly common. Then we'll explore why your brain processes financial decisions so differently in retirement, something we call the decumulation phase. From there, we'll help you reframe your role from a passive client to an active auditor, and I'll walk you through a practical toolkit called the Sovereign Audit Protocol. After that, we'll talk about the wisdom behind this new approach and finish up with a simple, gentle challenge you can take on today.
Okay, so let's start with that feeling. A feeling that might be very, very familiar. It's that sense of ease you have with an advisor you've known for years, maybe even decades, right? They've seen you through market highs and lows. They ask about your family. But inside that very comfort, a quiet danger can start to grow, almost completely unnoticed.
This feeling, this sense of complete trust where you might start just skimming the statements or you stop asking about fees, well, it isn't necessarily the sign of a healthy relationship. It's actually the first step into what neurofinance experts call the blind trust trap. This is a critical moment where your evaluation shifts. You stop scrutinizing the portfolio and instead you start focusing on the person. We think we're just relaxing into a trusted partnership, but what's really happening is our brain is deploying a very risky mental shortcut.
It's called the Delegated Trust Heuristic. Now, this isn't a personal failing, not at all. It's a biological defense mechanism. As we get older and as the financial world gets more and more complex, our brains can get what's called task-saturated. And when faced with that overload, your brain, in an effort to save precious energy, literally outsources its capacity for critical thinking. It quiets that part of you that asks the tough questions, all just to maintain a feeling of safety and stability in a world that feels increasingly complicated.
And here's the direct mathematical consequence of that mental shortcut. When our skepticism is outsourced, the door just swings wide open for what we call silent erosion. This is the slow, almost invisible draining of your assets. It happens through advisory fees that are way higher than the industry average, through expensive investment products that benefit the advisor more than they benefit you, and through incentives that are just not aligned with your primary goal, preserving your capital. It happens quietly, statement by statement, year after year, eroding the very foundation of security you worked so hard to build.
To really understand why this trap is so potent during retirement, we have to grasp how our financial reality has fundamentally changed. The mindset and the strategies that were so successful in building your wealth are not the same ones that are going to protect it. Let's explore how this neurological shift really plays out in the real world.
For most of your working life, you were in the accumulation phase. The name of the game was growth. The market could take a hit, you could make a poor investment, but you had time and a steady income to recover those losses. But now, you're in the decumulation phase. The rules of the game have completely changed. The focus is no longer on growth, it is on preservation. Every single dollar lost to excessive fees or a bad investment is a dollar that is gone forever. It cannot be earned back. The stakes are profoundly, fundamentally higher.
And this is where our own biology can start to work against us. Faced with the high-stakes complexity of managing a nest egg, the brain often engages in something called cognitive surrender. This is a crucial point. When the math gets too dense and the jargon gets too thick, your brain instinctively switches from analytical processing, which asks, do these numbers make sense, to relational processing, which asks, do I trust this person? It's a subtle but massive shift from logic to emotion.
This switch to relational processing makes us vulnerable to several well-documented psychological traps. First, there's the halo effect. Because your advisor is polite, remembers your birthday, and asks about your grandkids, you subconsciously assume their portfolio management skills must be equally excellent. Then there's moral licensing. You think, he's such a good person, he would never overcharge me, so you accept high fees without question, just assuming they must be standard. And finally, status quo bias kicks in, making the emotional stress of questioning a long-term relationship feel more painful than the very real, tangible financial cost of those hidden fees.
So how do we counteract our own biology? How do we defend against these powerful psychological forces? Well, it requires a conscious, fundamental shift in our mindset. It's about moving from the passive role of a client to the active role of an auditor, reclaiming the power that has always been and must always be yours.
This really illustrates the change we need to make. We have to move away from a mindset of relational dependency, where we see our advisor as a kind of protective guardian, and the focus is all on the personal connection. Instead, we have to adopt a mindset of systemic oversight. In this new role, you view your advisor as a contracted asset manager, a highly paid professional you have hired to perform a specific job, and the focus shifts from the person to the measurable performance of the system they manage.
And here's the crucial point. In the world of finance, trust cannot be a constant. It's not a one-time gift you give and then forget about. No, it's a variable that has to be continuously earned and, more importantly, verified with objective, transparent data. True, sustainable trust is built on verifiable performance, not just a pleasant personality.
Now, embracing this new role can feel uncomfortable at first. We're conditioned to avoid confrontation, and you might worry about seeming difficult or mistrustful. But let's reframe that thought entirely. You are not being difficult. You are exercising the single most important duty you have, the fiduciary duty to yourself and your family. You are the CEO of your own financial life, and it is not just your right, it's your responsibility to make sure it's being managed with competence and integrity.
Shifting your mindset is the essential first step. The next is equipping yourself with the right tools. The Sovereign Audit Protocol is a straightforward, practical toolkit. It's designed not to create conflict, but to create clarity. Think of these as a set of cognitive defense systems to keep you firmly in the driver's seat of your financial future. Before we detail the specific steps, let's establish a simple, powerful benchmark: the 1% threshold. If you add up every single fee, advisory fees, fund expenses, trading costs, administrative costs, all of it, and it totals more than 1% of your assets under management each year, the evidence is clear: you are very likely overpaying. This number is your North Star. Keep it in your mind as we go through the protocol.
Okay, here are the first 3 tools. With a confident tone, you begin. Step 1, the Fiduciary Litmus Test. You must ask this question in writing, via email. Are you a fee-only fiduciary at all times when working with my accounts? A fiduciary is legally bound to act in your best interest. If the answer is anything but a direct, unqualified yes, that's a red flag for a potential conflict of interest. Step 2, the 1% threshold audit we just talked about. Do the math. And step 3, the why now inquiry. For any proposed trade or change to your portfolio, ask a simple question. Can you explain how this action increases my financial security and sovereignty today? This forces them to drop the jargon and explain the tangible benefit to you in plain English.
Now let's move to a few advanced defense systems. First, every 3 years, get a third-party second opinion. Pay a different fee-only financial planner for a one-time flat-fee review of your portfolio. This gives you the objective external validation your brain needs to break that cycle of blind trust. And second, set up a quarterly performance mirror. This is simple. You just compare your portfolio's net returns, that's after all fees are taken out, against a simple, low-cost benchmark like a 60/40 stock and bond index fund. If your portfolio isn't consistently beating that simple benchmark over time, what exactly are you paying an expert for?
Implementing this protocol requires courage. It requires you to see your own scrutiny not as an act of distrust, but as an act of profound wisdom. This is about fully and confidently embracing your role as the ultimate steward of your life's work.
This is a line to commit to memory. It's perhaps the most important distillation of this entire explainer. Your advisor can be the nicest person in the world. They can be a wonderful, caring human being. That is entirely separate from their professional competence and the mathematical reality of the fees they charge and the returns they generate. You have to be able to hold both ideas at once. You can like the person while you audit the professional.
So please, take this wisdom with you into every future meeting. Your detailed questions are not a sign that you are being annoying, they are a sign of high financial intelligence. You spent a lifetime building this capital. You are now simply a master of stewardship, ensuring the vault is secure. That feeling you get in your gut when an explanation seems overly complex or vague? Trust it, it's your brain's early warning system. And never, ever forget, you are the boss. You are the CFO of your own life.
Knowing all of this intellectually is one thing. Putting it into action is another. So let's wrap up with a simple, tangible first step you can take, a gentle challenge to begin this process of reclaiming your financial sovereignty today.
Here it is. Your challenge is to take out your most recent account statement.
Look through every page and see if you can find a single line item that clearly states the total fees paid in dollars for that period, not as a percentage, but as a hard dollar figure. If you can't find it easily, and often you can't, your journey has already begun. That lack of transparency is your first data point. Your next step is to call or email your advisor and ask for the total dollar amount of all fees paid last year. Seeing that number is often the clarifying moment you need.
Remember, your financial advisor is a contractor you have hired to do a job. They are not family. Conducting an audit of their work isn't an act of mistrust, it is a profound act of self-respect. Starting with that fiduciary litmus test is the single best way to begin building a foundation of true, verifiable trust. Transparency is the only path to building a lasting vault of security, so you can move forward not with blind trust, but with calm, earned confidence.
Because in the end, that's what this is all about. It's your money, your future, and your independence. The blind trust trap is the most expensive thing you can own, paid for with your peace of mind and the legacy you've worked so hard to create. So I encourage you, audit the expert, secure the vault, and lead your life with the financial sovereignty you have absolutely earned.